Hey there, night owls and thrill seekers. Welcome back to Silent Screams, your go-to channel for the terrifying tales that'll keep you up all night. I'm your host, and tonight, we're diving deep into a story that'll make you think twice about what's lurking in the shadows. So, grab your blankets, check under your bed, and let's begin our journey into the heart of darkness. You know, I never used to believe in the supernatural. Ghost stories were just that, stories. But after what happened to me last summer, I'm not so sure anymore. It all started when I inherited my grandmother's old Victorian house on the outskirts of town. The place had been abandoned for years, a decrepit monument to a bygone era. As I turned the key in the rusty lock, a chill ran down my spine. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty interior frozen in time. "Home sweet home," I muttered, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. The first few days were uneventful. I spent most of my time cleaning, sorting through old boxes, and trying to make the place livable. But as the sun set on the fourth night, things started to change. It began with whispers. Soft at first, barely audible over the creaking of the old house settling. I dismissed it as the wind, but deep down, I knew better. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until I could almost make out words. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing through the empty halls. "Is someone there?" Silence. Then, a giggle. High-pitched and childlike, it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. My heart raced as I searched room after room, finding nothing but dust and shadows. As I climbed the stairs to the attic, the floorboards groaned under my weight. The air grew thick, almost oppressive. And there, in the far corner, I saw it, a rocking chair, moving on its own. Back and forth. Back and forth. The steady creak of wood against wood filled the air. "This isn't real," I whispered, trying to convince myself. "This can't be happening." But it was. And it was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, the incidents escalated. Objects moved on their own. Doors slammed shut without warning. And always, those whispers in the dark. I tried to leave, but something always drew me back. It was as if the house itself didn't want me to go. One night, as I lay in bed, paralyzed by fear, I felt a weight on my chest. Opening my eyes, I found myself staring into the hollow sockets of a ghostly face, inches from my own. "You're ours now," it hissed, its breath icy against my skin. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't respond. As the apparition faded, its laughter echoing in my ears, I realized the true horror of my situation. This wasn't just a haunted house. It was a gateway to something far worse. Desperate for answers, I delved into my grandmother's old journals. What I found chilled me to the bone. Entries spoke of ancient rituals, of doors opened that should have remained closed. My grandmother hadn't just lived in this house. She had been its guardian, keeping whatever lurked beyond our reality at bay. And now, with her gone, that duty had fallen to me. Armed with this knowledge, I set out to confront the entities that stalked the shadows. I learned to ward off the weaker spirits, to close the minor breaches between worlds. But with each small victory, I sensed something greater stirring. It all came to a head on the night of the full moon. As the pale light filtered through the dusty windows, the house came alive with malevolent energy. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on monstrous forms. The whispers became a cacophony of screams and pleas. and in the center of it all stood a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You've meddled in affairs beyond your comprehension, child," it spoke, its voice like gravel. "The barriers between worlds are weakening. Soon, the gates will open, and what lies beyond will feast on your reality." I stood my ground, clutching my grandmother's amulet. "I won't let that happen," I declared, my voice steadier than I felt. The entity laughed, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You have no choice. The wheels were already in motion. Watch as your world crumbles around you." With a gesture, the floor beneath my feet began to ripple and warp. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist, revealing glimpses of nightmarish landscapes beyond. Tentacles of shadow lashed out, grasping at me with ethereal claws. I fought back with every ounce of strength I had, reciting the incantations I'd learned from my grandmother's journals. The amulet glowed with an inner light, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. For a moment, it seemed like I might prevail. The shadows retreated, the whispers faded. But then I felt it, a crack in the very fabric of reality, spreading like a spider's web across the room. "You see," the entity hissed. "Your efforts only hasten the inevitable. The more you struggle, the faster your world will fall." As if to emphasize its point, the crack widened, revealing a swirling vortex of cosmic horror beyond. Creatures of impossible geometry writhed in the void, their very existence an affront to sanity. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling from the sight. This was bigger than me, bigger than anything I could have imagined. How could I, a single person, stand against the forces of cosmic chaos? But as I felt myself being pulled towards the vortex, a new voice cut through the madness. Familiar, comforting, yet tinged with urgency. "Fight, child," my grandmother's voice echoed in my mind. "You are the last line of defense. The power is within you. Use it." With her words, I felt a surge of energy coursing through my veins. The amulet blazed with blinding light, and I found myself speaking words I didn't understand, an ancient language of power and protection. The entity shrieked, its form wavering as the light touched it. "This isn't over," it snarled. "We will return. And next time, your pitiful defenses won't be enough." With a final, reality-shaking roar, the vortex collapsed in on itself. The cracks in the air sealed shut, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I collapsed to the floor, exhausted but alive. As the first light of dawn filtered through the windows, I surveyed the damage. The house was in ruins, scorch marks and ethereal residue covering every surface. But it was still standing, still anchored in our reality. I had won this battle, but at what cost? And how long until the next attack? As I sifted through the debris, I found a hidden compartment in the floorboards. Inside was a leather-bound book, its pages filled with arcane knowledge and dire warnings. On the first page, in my grandmother's handwriting, was a message to my successor: "The burden you now bear is great, but you are not alone. There are others like us, guardians of the veil between worlds. Seek them out. Learn from them. For the war against the darkness is eternal, and we are the last line of defense. May the light guide your path." Margaret, I clutched the book to my chest, a mix of fear and determination coursing through me. This was my legacy, my destiny. The horrors I had faced were just the beginning. As I stepped out of the house, ready to begin my search for allies, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The battle was won, but the war? The war had only just begun. And somewhere, in the deepest shadows of reality, something ancient and terrible was stirring, waiting for its chance to break through once more. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a faint, otherworldly laughter. I shivered, knowing that my journey into the heart of cosmic horror was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. As I set out on my journey to find other guardians, the weight of my grandmother's book felt like an anchor tying me to a world I no longer fully understood. Each step away from the house filled me with a mix of relief and dread. What horrors awaited me beyond the familiar terrors of my inherited home? The first few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights in seedy motels and endless research. I pored over my grandmother's notes, trying to decipher clues about where I might find allies. But it wasn't the written words that led me to my first encounter, it was the nightmares. Every night, I found myself wandering through a twisted landscape of impossible geometry and writhing shadows. And every night, I saw her, a woman with eyes like swirling galaxies, beckoning me forward. When I finally woke, gasping and drenched in sweat, I knew where I had to go. The coordinates led me to a small bookshop in New Orleans, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the French Quarter. As I pushed open the door, the smell of old paper and something more arcane washed over me. "I've been expecting you," came a voice from the shadows. The woman from my dreams stepped into the light, her eyes just as mesmerizing in person. "You've taken your first steps into a larger world, child. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Before I could answer, the air around us shimmered and warped. The bookshop fell away, revealing a vast chamber lined with shelves that stretched into infinity. Books floated through the air, their pages fluttering with whispered secrets. "Welcome to the Athenaeum," the woman said, her voice echoing in the impossible space. "I am Alara, keeper of forbidden knowledge. And you, my dear, have a lot to learn." Over the next few months, Alara taught me things that would have shattered my sanity mere weeks ago. I learned of the cosmic entities that lurked between realities, of the fragile barriers that kept our world safe, and of the price guardians paid to maintain that safety. But with each revelation came new horrors. I discovered that my grandmother's house was just one of many weak points in reality, nexus points where the veil between worlds was thin. And those points were multiplying. "The barriers are weakening," Alara explained one day, her face grave. "Something is coming. Something big." As if on cue, the Athenaeum shuddered. Books tumbled from shelves, and a keening wail echoed through the chamber. Alara's eyes widened in fear, an expression I'd never seen on her face before. "It's happening," she whispered. "The convergence. We're out of time." Before I could ask what she meant, reality itself seemed to tear apart. The walls of the Athenaeum crumbled, revealing a nightmarish landscape beyond. Twisted spires of obsidian rose into a blood-red sky, and creatures of pure nightmare roamed a desolate plain. "What is this place?" I gasped, struggling to comprehend the alien terrain. "This is what lies beyond the veil," Alara said, her voice tight with tension. "The realm of the old ones. And it's bleeding into our world." As we watched in horror, the landscape began to shift and merge with our reality. Buildings from the French Quarter phased into existence, only to be corrupted and twisted by the alien environment. People appeared, screaming in terror as they found themselves in this hellish domain. "We have to stop this," I said, clenching my fists. "There has to be a way." Alara nodded grimly. "There is. But the cost, it may be more than you're willing to pay." She explained the ritual, an ancient rite that could seal the breach between worlds. But it required a sacrifice. A willing guardian to act as a living seal, forever straddling the line between realities. "I'll do it," I said without hesitation. The faces of those innocent people, trapped in a nightmare they couldn't comprehend, steeled my resolve. Alara's eyes softened with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "I knew you would. You truly are your grandmother's heir." As we began the ritual, the world around us continued to warp and twist. Tentacles of pure darkness lashed out, trying to disrupt our efforts. I could feel the malevolent attention of cosmic entities far beyond my comprehension, their alien minds probing at the edges of my sanity. I chanted the words Alara taught me, each syllable burning in my throat like liquid fire. The air crackled with eldritch energy, and I felt myself being pulled in two directions at once. "Hold on," Alara shouted over the cacophony of colliding realities. "You're the anchor now. Don't let go." Pain unlike anything I'd ever experienced coursed through my body. I could feel my very essence being stretched across the gulf between worlds. In that moment, I understood true cosmic horror, the insignificance of humanity in the face of a vast, uncaring universe. But I also felt something else. A connection to every other guardian throughout history, their strength flowing into me. I saw my grandmother's face, proud and encouraging, and I knew I couldn't let them down. With a final, reality-shattering cry, I completed the ritual. There was a blinding flash of light, and then, silence. I opened my eyes to find myself floating in a void between worlds. Fragments of both realities drifted around me like cosmic debris. I could see New Orleans rebuilding itself, the alien landscape receding. The breach was sealed. But I was trapped, neither fully in one world nor the other. A living barrier between realms. "You did it," Alara's voice echoed in my mind. "The convergence has been stopped. For now." "What happens next?" I asked, marveling at how calm I felt in the face of my new existence. "You watch. You guard. And when the time comes, you guide the next generation of guardians. For the war is never truly over. It just evolves." As Alara's presence faded, I settled into my new role. From my vantage point between realities, I could see the ebb and flow of cosmic forces. I watched as new guardians rose to face threats I could only imagine. And sometimes, when the veil grew thin, I would reach out to offer guidance or warning. Years passed in the blink of an eye. I saw civilizations rise and fall, both in our world and in the realms beyond. I witnessed horrors that would drive most to madness, but also beauty that defied description. And through it all, I stood guard. The last line of defense against forces that would unmake reality itself. But lately, I felt a shift in the cosmic tides. The barriers I've worked so hard to maintain are showing signs of strain. New cracks are forming, and through them, I catch glimpses of terrors even I can scarcely comprehend. A new convergence is coming, bigger than the last. And this time, I fear my sacrifice alone won't be enough to stop it. So I reach out across the void, searching for those with the potential to become guardians. I send them dreams, visions, subtle nudges to prepare them for the battles to come. And to you, dear listener, I offer this warning: the world you think you know is but a fragile illusion. The true nature of reality is far stranger and more terrifying than you can imagine. Keep your eyes open. Question what you think you know. And if you ever find yourself facing horrors beyond comprehension, remember, you're not alone. There are guardians out there, watching, waiting, ready to guide you. For the war against cosmic horror is eternal, and we need all the help we can get. As I drift in this liminal space, I can feel the stirrings of ancient, malevolent entities. They push against the barriers, searching for weaknesses. And I know that soon, very soon, the next chapter in this cosmic horror story will begin. Will you be ready when it does? The void around me pulses with eldritch energy, a reminder that the greatest terrors often lurk just beyond our perception. I steel myself for the battles to come, hoping that somewhere out there, a new generation of guardians is preparing to take up the mantle. For in the face of cosmic horror, hope is sometimes the most powerful weapon we have. And so I wait, suspended between realities, a silent guardian against the encroaching darkness. The horrors I've witnessed pale in comparison to what I sense is coming. But I'll be here, ready to face whatever nightmares the universe throws our way. After all, that's what we guardians do. We stand at the edge of sanity, peering into the abyss of cosmic terror, so that others may sleep soundly in their beds at night. Sweet dreams, dear listeners. And remember, when you hear that tap on your window in the dead of night, or feel eyes watching you from the shadows, it might just be me, checking to see if you have what it takes to join our ranks. Until next time, this is your eternal guardian, signing off from the space between spaces. Stay vigilant, and may the cosmic horrors have mercy on us all.